This is CNN.
Connecting Africa in association with Afreximbank.
From food insecurity to rising inflation, from the infrastructure gap to the risks of war, the African business community is coming together at the annual Africa CEO Forum to tackle these critical issues.
Hi, I'm Melanie Jokos in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, and I'll be speaking to top CEOs and business leaders about how boosting intra-Africa trade can help alleviate some of the challenges the continent is facing.
As Africans, we have to take ownership of our development.
We need to create a primary food processing industry in Africa.
Africa is critical for the 21st century. I think this is the starting point.
Abidjan, the economic capital of Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa. This city, famous for its busy seaport, crowded traditional markets and extensive infrastructure, has established itself as an attractive economic and financial hub in the region. Here you will find major international banks and leading multinationals. Today, Abidjan is a destination for thousands of African CEOs and entrepreneurs. They're descending onto the city for the Africa CEO Forum, the largest business conference on the continent, also known as the Davos of Africa, and one of the first in-person events since the pandemic broke out 2 years ago. An opportunity to network and discuss the challenges the continent is facing.
Hello, everyone.
For me, it's a chance to finally get back onto the road to talk business and to see old friends. When the COVID pandemic hit in 2020, the African continent saw its worst recession in more than 50 years. GDP fell by 2.1%, with foreign direct investment and exports taking an even harder hit, plummeting 16% and 8.5% respectively. And as the continent is rebuilding post-pandemic, intra-African trade currently represents around 15% of total trade, could be the big winner.
I think one of the lessons that we've learned from the pandemic is the fact that we need each other as African countries. You know, at some point, some of our businesses were suffering, but some of our businesses were thriving because of the lack of imports elsewhere, from elsewhere in the world. So I think it has proved the fact that we can create and build capacity amongst Africans to trade with each other.
The first shock was COVID. The second one was the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. So definitely in terms of food security, in terms of energy security, and all those steps we've been discussing all throughout the period, it's sort of important for now that African countries sort of build a capacity system, trading between themselves, to sort of strengthen the resilience.
So from a trade perspective, you can imagine we don't have necessarily the connectivity on trade. So I think by opening that area up, then the continent should be able to expand and trade within itself and create more value.
The future of Africa is for us to export to each other's countries, to manufacture for each other, and not rely on the West.
COVID-19, geopolitical instability and inflation. The past 2 years have put Africa under huge pressure. The hundreds of CEOs and officials that I'm meeting here are heeding the call to find joint solutions to long-standing issues like poverty, food insecurity, the infrastructure gap, and low economic growth.
We've seen an enormous increase in inequality because of the pandemic. And I guess the fear is now with new geopolitical issues that is causing supply chain problems with food as well as energy, what that would mean for inequality on the continent. Could you put that into numbers for us?
I mean, inequality has gotten worse, right? It's interesting, you know, even when we had strong growth, so we talk about Africa rising, the reality is we've had a rising decade. So the middle decade, 2000 to 2010 is when we really rose. The last 10 years have been quite difficult. But even when we were rising as a continent, the number of people living in poverty increased, it didn't decrease, right? And so what's happening is, yes, we're getting to growth of 5%, 6%. It's interesting, but in a continent where population is growing at 2.7%, it doesn't give you much wiggle room.
So what is going to move the needle on that? Is there a silver bullet?
I don't think there's a silver bullet, but I think there are a couple of things that we need to get right. One is there are problems everywhere, so you need to prioritize where you're going to focus and what are the ones that are really going to move the needle for you. I think where the rubber hits the road and where we failed, generally honest, if we're honest with ourselves as a continent, is execution. How do you track, monitor, course correct, fix what's going on, figure out where you are, and then start to make sure that things are moving in the right direction.
The African private sector is now seen as crucial to unlocking the continent's full potential. Here at the Africa CEO Forum, business leaders are calling for investments in infrastructure, health, finance, energy and housing. All sectors in which the African Finance Corporation, a large multilateral institution that wants to tackle the infrastructure gap, is working on for the post-pandemic recovery of the continent.
I guess the question is now, is the continent, are various African leaders ready to pump in the right amount of money that is required to fill that gap?
So, as Africans, we have to take ownership of our development. And the Africa Finance Corporation is an example of Africans taking ownership of development and challenges facing the continent. So what we have always needed is private sector participation and the ability to mobilize additional private sector capital for infrastructure investments and for most of the things that we need to happen on the continent. And that is a challenge. We need to have more Africans taking charge, leading the investments, and the world will follow.
I want to talk about the African Continental Free Trade Area. And, there's so much excitement about it. And frankly, we have a show, that we're focusing on sort of the impact. Have you seen an impact? Has it changed the way that you've been able to engage with the players on the continent?
It will provide us an avenue to trade the goods that we produce in Africa. So one of the key focus for AFC is to transform African resources into finished goods. So we have a project in Gabon whereby we're transforming timber into furniture, sawwood, plywood, and veneer, and we want to do that at scale. We have a project in Benin Republic where we're going to transform cotton and cashew into finished products. You must have goods that you can trade within the Continental Free Trade Area. We think that if we can make progress with regional integration, we can make progress with customs, we can make program with visas and travel, then we'll be on the path.
What exactly is economic sovereignty and how can it be achieved? After the break, we discuss that with one of the continent's top industrialists.
For too long, we have waited for hours to convert currencies, days to clear checks, and decades to reach our potential. But now, we can access the power of African free trade in an instant with PAPS, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. Overcome barriers, reduce risks, trade in local currencies, and connect with a single market united across Africa. Be a part of Africa's flourishing free trade today.
Blueprint, in association with Qatar Airways.
When the COVID wrecking ball hit the industry and grounded all of the aircraft, we saw people in a state of panic about getting on an aircraft again.
Teague, a Seattle-based tech design company, created a device it says can reduce the spread of viruses on board airplanes.
People's attitudes towards public spaces have changed, so we found a way to make it even safer. It's a solution to social distancing. What AirShield delivers is virtual distancing because you're achieving exactly the same outcome but just by manipulating the airflow.
The device fits over the cabin's air supply and redirects exhaled particles from each passenger straight down through the plane's vents, creating what Teague calls an invisible curtain between neighbouring passengers.
We think this is potentially even the revolution in economy that everyone's been waiting for.
Blueprint, in association with Qatar Airways.
I'm Paula Hancock in Seoul. This is CNN.
Connecting Africa in association with Afreximbank.
economic sovereignty, being more independent when it comes to producing more goods and services, has been widely discussed here at the Africa CEO Forum.
The questions are how to achieve it, what would the impact be, and what would economic independence really look like?
Africa's trade deficit today sits at $125 billion. If you compare that to, it's sort of 4 times the deficit of Europe, it's 1.5 times the deficit of Asia. And what that means is we just import too many of our products, right? We import 99% of our vaccines, we import 60% of our pharmaceuticals products, we import 71% of the wheat we consume, right? And as such, you know, we're overly dependent on other countries.
Abdul Samad Rabiu is a billionaire industrialist at the helm of Boer Group, a Nigerian conglomerate in food processing and infrastructure. He believes that Africa can finally end its dependency on European and Asian countries. And he told me that the tool to gain economic sovereignty is the African Continental Free Trade Area.
So, African Continental Free Trade Area, what has been the in real terms, impact for your business since it went live? Have you had anything change?
To be honest, yes, we have. The African Continental Free Trade Arrangement is an amazing arrangement, but it needs to actually, we need to all come together to ensure that it works for us to really, you know, enjoy the benefits of the agreement. Of course, we also have challenges as far as infrastructure is concerned, because for the agreement to succeed, you need to also fix infrastructure space. And these are areas like ports, for example. It is more expensive.
Are you still finding it challenging?
We are finding challenges
to use
the ports. I give you an example. It is more expensive to ship goods from Nigeria, say, to Lomé than from Nigeria to Brazil.
Based in Nigeria, BUA is one of the largest conglomerates in Africa. Its business spans across food, cement, real estate, mining and port operations. In 2021, it spun off and listed its food and cement units, obtaining high profits despite economic challenges and the infrastructure gap. And with the AfCFTA allowing tax-free trade on thousands of food items, Rabiu is investing more to achieve independency in the food business, cutting imports from outside the continent and trading more with Africa.
You know, we are also into sugar, and we are building the most advanced sugar plantation in Nigeria today, because we've been importing raw sugar to process in Nigeria. So we started, you know, this plantation about, 3 years ago. And it's a 20,000 hectare, 4-in-1 fully integrated, sugar plantation, with sugar mill, sugar refinery, ethanol, and power plant. We decided to do that because we realized that we are spending a lot of money importing, raw sugar, and sugar is something that, easily could be planted and produced in Nigeria.
So what do you want to invest in other than sugar, right? Are you thinking grains? Are you thinking...
Grains is key. Okay, we are doing, you see, because most of our businesses actually, we are getting a lot of our raw materials locally, like our cement business or mining business. We have 7 plants scattered across Nigeria, and some of these plants are actually within some border towns, which means we can locally sell and also export. So most of those plants are using almost 90 to 95% locally sourced raw materials.
If there's one thing that large and small corporations have proven over the pandemic, is that they are resilient and agile. After the break, how Africa plans to tackle food insecurity.
For too long, we have waited for hours to convert currencies, days to clear checks, and decades to reach our potential. But now, we can access the power of African free trade in an instant with PAPS, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. Overcome barriers, reduce risks, trade in local currencies, and connect with a single market united across Africa. Be a part of Africa's flourishing free trade today.
To fly go in the world, one airline goes further to make it feel exceptional. Qatar Airways, going places together.
I'm Linda Kincaid in Atlanta, and this is CNN.
Connecting Africa in association with Afrexim Bank.
In Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, business leaders and CEOs have gathered to discuss some of the biggest opportunities and challenges for Africa.
Food security is widely talked about here, and with 60% of Africa's population still reliant on agriculture as a source of income, it is absolutely vital.
Yet the continent is a net importer of food. It is 60% of the world's arable land, but imports $35 billion of its food consumption. And according to the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, that number could hit $110 billion by 2025.
When you look at the way we import food on the African continent, you see that we import things like staples, maize, rice, wheat. These are things that can be produced on the African continent, and yet we export unprocessed goods like cocoa, like coffee, like horticulture. So really what we aren't doing today is investing to make sure we can increase the production of key staples on the continent, which are integral to what people eat. We need larger commercial, also economies of scale to make sure that we're making food production in a way that's affordable.
Helping farmers across Africa to become more efficient and productive is the mission of Ikenna Mzewi. This young Nigerian businessman launched his company Relief to industrialize the production of key products like nuts, oil palm, and vegetable oil, increasing crop yields and contributing to tackling food insecurity.
So Relief is a supply chain technology company. Basically, it's our job to make sure that fast-moving consumer good companies get the inputs for their products at cheaper prices. And so to do that, we need to create a primary food processing industry in Africa. And so we are creating that network in Africa by creating new pieces of technology that do this primary processing, and also using geospatial software to figure out where the best location for those factories should be to make the value chain more efficient.
Take me through the value chain that you're plugged into right now.
So we've started off in the sustainable oil palm sector. We work with smallholder farmers. So if you look at the vegetable oil market in Nigeria, 80% of the supply comes from about 4 million smallholder farmers, and the other 20% comes from more monoculture, plantation-based oil palm. And so what our company does is we work with smallholder farmers to basically process their nuts into vegetable oil, and we sell it to FMCGs. So to take you on the journey from the farm, it all starts with the palm fruit. So farmers climb palm trees and cut down the palm fruit. They then squeeze the juice out of the palm fruit. Today, smallholder farmers will use like handheld rocks to basically crack open these nuts, which is very time intensive, and it of course ruins the quality of the resulting vegetable oil from that nut. And so at Relief, we invented a nut cracker. My CTO invented it and I gave it a name, so because it cracks nuts, we call it Kraken. It's 200 times faster than a smallholder farmer processing the crops themselves, and it saves farmers the trouble of having to process these crops in a way that reduces value from the value chain.
Do you work with a lot of smallholder farmers that then plug into a wider sort of value chain? How do they get your goods to market?
So I think in general, we've chosen a good crop. Vegetable oil has incredible demand in West Africa, and so Nigeria's vegetable oil market is over $3 billion, and analysts estimate that there's twice as much demand as there is readily available supply. And so the demand is there for the product, and I think the development community is even beginning to re-envision the point that you were just making. If the intervention should be from looking for products that have high demand and then stimulating those value chains, or working from the supply side to increase yields, but maybe not being sure if those yields will be sold. And so our approach at Relief is to really start with strong demand from these FMCGs that need these inputs, and then to help smallholder farmers get access to that market.
The Continental Free Trade Area has been, as a policy, is really interesting, right? Because we want to see more intra-Africa trade. You're focusing on the Nigerian market right now. Do you think that there's a lot more opportunity for the rest of the continent?
There's a ton of opportunity. And
Can you tap into it realistically?
Yeah, so when we look at crops, we look at the crops over a multi-country geographical area. We don't just choose Nigerian oil palm. We choose West and Central African oil palm as an investment strategy. And as I mentioned earlier with our business, we use geospatial technology to position these nutcrackers where there is farming activity. And so it's very easy for us to expand and basically say, oh, there's a great location in Ghana where farmers are very productive, but they don't have access to market. Let's put a nutcracker there.
The scars of the pandemic, inflation and conflict, the world is dealing with a plethora of challenges. We ask the question how African businesses can build buffers to protect against exogenous shocks.
For too long, we have waited for hours to convert currencies, days to clear checks, and decades to reach our potential. But now, we can access the power of African free trade in an instant with PAPS, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. Overcome barriers, reduce risks, trade in local currencies, and connect with a single market united across Africa. Be a part of Africa's flourishing free trade today.
I'm Paula Newton in Ottawa, and this is CNN.
Connecting Africa in association with Afrexim Bank.
Inflation, wars, food insecurity have put Africa under stress these past 2 years. Here at the Africa CEO Forum, I'm now preparing to go on stage and discuss with top bankers how the continent can build buffers to protect itself from future global shocks. I think that, if we think about the inflationary impact, we think about the prognosis from the World Bank or the OECD, we're not heading into recession just yet, but it is a scary scenario that we're looking at, and it almost feels Sisyphean. One crisis happens and then we're barely out of, that unprecedented experience, and we're heading into another unknown factor. So given the macroeconomic environment, what are bankers doing right now to change our scenarios?
Those are old problems for Africa. Those issues are old issues. We know that Africa has a limited fiscal space. We know that we need to move up into the value chain in terms of agriculture. We know that we have not been invested that much into agriculture for a long time. All those issues are old issues. The only thing that is new today is this is once again reminding us that we need to act. We need to deal with those issues.
Okay, so what are the action points on that? Because I think that if we had our farmers, 20 years ago getting inputs and access to credit that was affordable, maybe we would have be dealing with hardcore multinational commercial farmers as opposed to still commercial farmers.
So you need to provide them financing, indeed.
Yeah.
That's where we can play a role. You need to have that cooperation between private sector and public sector. And you need to invest into infrastructure as well.
Yes, yeah.
Starting by infrastructure, the point here is that investing into infrastructure is going to help Africa to gain into competitiveness. That's the main point. That's what we need to do. If we do that, we add additional funding, then we can begin to have impact on lives of Africans.
Bertrand, welcome. It's so good to have you on. Look, you're the former CFO at the World Bank, and how are you seeing what is going on at the moment?
We are in a deep crisis, let's face it. I mean, we can be positive, etc., but it's very tough. It's tough economically, it's tough socially, it's tough geopolitically, from whatever perspective you take. But I think what is important for the macroeconomic is a long-term perspective, the mid to long-term. How do you prepare for the future? And what gives me hope is that Africa, for the 21st century, is not part of the problem, is probably at the heart of the solution. The demographic issue of the world, the carbon issue, I mean, that's in Africa where you can offset carbon. That's in Africa you can produce the necessary hydrogen that is needed for the transition. That's in Africa you will find the rare earths, etc. So a lot of things will happen in Africa.
Georges, great to have you on. I have to ask you, as an African working at a multinational bank, I'm curious to find out what conversations you have about perceptions of risk.
First of all, governments need to play their part in readjusting their expenditure to and revenue equation. We've seen a number of governments taking certain measures already by way of subsidies or reviewing the cost of government expenditures and so on. But there are other things that need to be done, and that's where the international community can come in. We need to look at the cost of debt, which is today weighing very heavily in the balance sheet of our countries.
I want us to be realistic, because we're talking about these macro issues, right, and how to solve them. We've been making changes, and I agree that we're seeing huge shifts. But this tectonic shift that we're on the cusp of huge efficiencies in agriculture, what do we need to see today?
We have to be first to persuade ourselves and then to persuade the others that Africa is critical for the 21st century. I think this is the starting point. This is important, and that it's not Africa that is designed, but Africa is self-designing itself as central for this century.
This is the time for Africa to actually get some sort of its independence in many aspects. We need to rely more on funds that are raised out of the continent versus external debt. We do have a lot of potential on the continent. We can develop our capital markets to actually tap into that potential to raise funds to finance those critical projects that the continent needs to make the next leap.
After being kept apart for so long and engaging in discussion virtually, you can feel the excitement of people coming together once again, connecting in person. Now, in the backdrop, a stark reality of many challenges facing the continent, but many CEOs tell me it's nothing that they can't contend with if they focus on the priorities. If you'd like to see more of our stories, you can check out our website. From me, Eleni Jokos, here in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, let's stay connected.
Connecting Africa in association with Afrexim Bank.
Coronavirus. To get daily news updates in your inbox, sign up for the CNN newsletter. Coronavirus. Fact versus fiction.
We've missed the globe-trotting and adventures, and we're longing to get out and go.
This is living.
Uncovering a city's DNA, meeting people who will share its secrets.
I love being here.
And making discoveries that wow.
You've got to be joking. Nice here, isn't it?
It's a world of wonder. Now, go and see it. Saturday on CNN, in association with Turkish Airlines.
I would describe One World as compelling, inclusive, and original. I want this show to be a place where everyone watching has a stake in the global conversation.
One World with Zain Asher, weeknights on CNN.
I want to go now to an incredible story of survival. Could all this spending lead to a bigger economic crisis? Or would you do it all again in terms of being a nurse?
I want to help people more than I ever have.
Aaron Burnett out front on CNN.
When you travel the world, make sure the world travels with you. Check in, log on, and get connected with all of the latest developments at your fingertips. CNN Partner Hotels. Connected to your world.
Afghan women are afraid that this is the beginning of your efforts to erase them from the workspace.
It's not clear. Even if we appear with the burqa, maybe they will say that women's voices are forbidden.
Did you ever imagine that you would be prevented from going to school?
Girls' education is fundamental to the dignity of Afghan life.
Do you believe that young girls will be allowed to go to school here in Afghanistan?
I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta in New York, and this is CNN.
African Voices Changemakers, in association with Glow Unlimited.
Welcome to African Voices.
Let's go, boy, let's go, boy, let's go!
This week, we're taking a look back at some of the best moments from recent episodes. We start in Mozambique, where a change-making artist is using war artifacts to promote peace. For Gonzalo Mabunda, art is freedom.
It's important to create, be you. We show the things come from inside of you. That is the important to create. Because when you create, you get free.
And sometimes inspiration comes from some of life's most traumatic experiences, like war.
During the war, we had a lot of stories. And for example, our neighbor is being killed, you know? And this affects you, even not your direct family, but it's someone who already knows and be killed in the war.
Gonzalo was born in Maputo in 1975, right at the dawn of the Mozambican Civil War. Now, old rusty armaments from the 15-year-long conflict have become Gonzalo's raw material.
We never think the weapons can be art, and we do it. Something you make for kill, we destroy it, we make art.
In his repertoire, sculptures, masks, crucifixes and thrones, one of which went to the Vatican to commemorate 10 years since the end of the conflict.
We showed the Pope, and Pope was really loved, and then he said, these things come from Mozambican artists, and he put us on the stage. It was really interesting.
Gonzalo's art process starts here, in the scrapyard.
We're in a scrap. It's my favorite place. I love it. It's one of the best. Africa is everything. The problem with Africa, they'll be colonized 500 years. It's too much. And today, we work. When we work, that's why they create all this world for us. Because they don't want us to grow up. But we're gonna grow. Because this is our Africa. It's our continent.
This awakening creativity grows further with every mindful step across the field.
You see, this is still dangerous. No, but this is okay. It's off.
Gonzalo's work with shells and weapons began with a project called Transforming Arms into Hoes, launched in 1995 by the Christian Council of Mozambique. In an effort to reduce the proliferation of weapons after the war, people were able to exchange machine guns, grenades and ammunition for food, sewing machines and bicycles. Instead, Gonzalo began to weld them to create his message of non-violence.
My first piece I call Innocent Travel, and I make it a big motto, you know. And my idea when I make this motto, I was trying to use all different weapons that the Christian Council of Mozambique bring for us, you know. And after Civil War, everything still sad when they give you this kind of material. It take time to be happy, you know. And I was looking for something more representative for me. And the things I was looking for, say, what am I gonna make? And I make those big motorbike, I call Innocent Travel. He said, okay. I want to travel my motor to see if really we're in peace from Maputo to Cabo Delgado, you know? And this was a challenge.
The results are rugged yet gentle, juxtaposing twisted metal objects with intimate life experiences.
This inspiration, it's my boys, you know? I have twins. This, I'm talking about the twins, for example, everything's come two. This is my city, this is my people, right? I love it.
Next, we'll revisit a Cameroonian canoeer who's racing to keep his country's rivers clean.
₦20,000 for free. 20,000 naira bonus.
Is your line blocked? Then move to Glow.
I'm reconnected.
Because we've all reconnected. And it's simple.
Dial *109# and link your NIN to your new or existing Glow number.
Get up to 20,000 naira for free with Glow.
20,000 naira bonus free.
Yes, sir, free.
Niger, what are you waiting for?
$5 years ago, and we decided that we wanted to have a Freshman Academy community service project, and we decided part of that was going to be working with spreading awareness of modern-day slavery.
At the end of your presentation, you need to tell me how that issue connects to your poem.
There's probably 300, 400 kids in the Freshman Academy. We had all of their core teachers make sure on My Freedom Day that they were teaching about that topic. And now we've got not just our core classes doing it, but also our elective classes.
Okay guys, so this is what we're going to do today as far as packing. You are going to grab a Ziploc bag, and then you are going to start here.
So when we first started this was exclusively for the freshman class, but it was such a hit with all of the classes that every year we've grown and added the classes in, so now it's a school-wide event.
And who are you helping?
So we have two groups, and both of those organizations work towards ending human trafficking or helping those that are in need. It's been amazing because our students have really embraced the idea of learning about modern slavery and embraced the idea of what is human trafficking, how it has impacted them, and it's been a very popular topic to learn about and to participate in.
It's a quiet day along the Wouri River in Cameroon. One of Leah Dikume's favorite places to row.
The river, Wouri, I can say it is sacred to us. I grew up in a society where we had parents who told us the beauty of our culture. And it is through these daily exchanges that I learned to be in love with nature, and mainly with our river, the Wouri, which is a space carrying history for our country, Cameroon.
Today, he and his brothers are practicing for the annual canoe race at the Ngondo Festival, a traditional water celebration in Douala every December.
The Ngondo is a tradition to the Sawa people, as you may know. The Ngondo reminds each and every one of us of our origin. It is through the Ngondo festival that we remember our culture and celebrate the divinity of our rivers. The canoe race has a major stake in the Ngondo because it is the canoe race that connects us to the waters.
Leah knows what it takes to win the race. His team placed first in 2021. After spending so much time on the water, Leah says he began noticing a serious problem surfacing.
One day, when I was walking with friends, I was shocked to see the amount of plastic waste washed up in the river and inside the mangroves. The Minister of Environment recently said that 600,000 tons of plastic waste are released into nature each year. If we don't stop throwing plastics into the river, then we will not only experience the loss of mangroves, but also aquatic life in its entirety.
With help from his family and friends, he launched the Makoma Matanda Association, which translates to Friends of the Mangrove.
I was with my older brother. I was also with my friend. We sat down together to discuss how to save our river. We all made very good propositions, and we began calling on volunteers, and gradually we began receiving the volunteers. It wasn't easy. Our association is called Makoma Matanda. Many people know us as Matanda Ecotour.
The group recycles plastic waste it collects from the river. In 2020, it removed 1.5 tons of plastic from the mangroves. But Leah says there's still more to be done. He says he feels a sense of responsibility to pass on his culture's traditions and help the youth build a connection to the Wari River.
It is important for me to give this knowledge to the younger generation so they will know the uses of the paddle in the Sawa environment. It is a traditional instrument because our ancestors used it to move from one place to the other. The paddle is therefore a symbol of travel, mobility. It connects us to our origin that wherever we see a paddle, we remember the river.
He hopes one day his students will follow in his footsteps and race in the annual Ngondo Festival. But learning how to row takes practice, patience, and rhythm. Once their strokes are in sync, it's time to suit up and hit the water.
It is important that after having studied these theories, we implement it through the race practice that we are having here today.
As the students hit their stride, Leah says he couldn't be prouder.
I was very surprised when I began teaching the younger generation. I thought they were interested in PlayStation, but my surprise increased when I noticed that they were rather delighted to learn our traditions and cultures. They are always present and very willing to learn.
Leah is confident with every stroke their connection to the river will grow, and it will inspire them to find a way to protect the environment.
We who are regularly in the water see these effects of climate change. It is important that we think of sustainable development in our conscience as well as its resilience in all of these parameters. If nothing is really done, the river will die. It is up to us to fight it with our energies and our efforts.
Today, the students got to see how Leah cleans up the river with his organization, Matanda Ecotour. The group first and foremost removes plastic pollution from the river. They're also building a network of mangrove ambassadors.
It is important for us to create this awareness to people of the entire world that, for instance, once you buy a bottle from the shop, that empty bottle can end up in the rivers. We are happy to deliver this message to everyone so that they understand there is a close relation between the land and the river through the negative daily actions we carry out within our society. We want people to understand that the environment is firstly our own selves, because man is in contact with the environment. So in order to be happy and healthy, we must take good care of our environment.
After a successful haul, he hopes this group of rowers will join him on his mission to keep the water clean for generations to come.
I think we are making them ambassadors to save our community, because tomorrow we will have people who will continue these actions. We will not lose hope for one day on something that we have begun. Even if we do not get to where we ought to be, the children we teach, the children who we pass on this knowledge to, will do better things than what we did.
Brekete times 10. Get a Glow SIM today and enjoy 1,000 Naira sign-on bonus for voice and data. All new and existing Glow subscribers also get 10 times the value of their every recharge, plus up to double their data recharge as bonus. All Glow subscribers also get up to free 20,000 Naira bonus for voice and data.
our mission here at CNN. The news comes first.
More breaking news that we are following right now. Welcome to the Situation Room. We have breaking news.
We're revisiting some of the best moments from recent episodes of African Voices Changemakers. In Nigeria, a former NFL player is providing a pathway for African athletes to play in the league.
Line it up, line it up, line it up.
Former NFL player Osi Umenyiora is in Abuja, Nigeria, looking for new talent for America's National Football League, the NFL.
Ain't no way 33 gonna make it. Ain't possible. You can quit, man. Go ahead. You can quit. Lay down now. My bad, 33. I'm sorry.
Many NFL players pick up the sport as children and are recruited into the league from college. But Osi says that doesn't faze him at all. He says his own journey into the league was unconventional.
I didn't start playing till I was late. I was lucky enough to have parents who could send me abroad to go to school. When I got to America, I was 14, about to turn 15 years old. I'd never heard of American football, didn't even know what it was at the time. And when I got there, it was just, you're consumed by it as soon as you get there because it's everywhere. And then I realized I was good at it, and I kept playing, and then all of a sudden I got a scholarship to go to university. And then as I'm playing in university, I got better and better, and then it's like, oh, they're gonna pay you so amounts of millions of dollars to continue to play this game. And all you need is the prerequisite athleticism and the size. You can just find a way to recognize that talent and give these guys the opportunities. It'll translate, and that's basically what we've been doing.
But Osi says there have been some challenges for the recruits and the program.
There's no structures in place to be able to find the type of athletes that you're looking for. Some people, their parents won't allow them to play. Some people, they may be eating one meal a day and they're coming from like 4 or 5 hours away. The learning curve has been a little difficult also because you have to start teaching them the game from like scratch.
It's after 10 p.m. at the Turf Arena and training will soon be winding down, bringing Osi and his team a day closer to making some cuts.
It's going to be tough for me tomorrow, to be honest, because I know everybody, I can't take everybody. I wish I could just like wrap my hands around everybody and just carry them and go with me, but.
It's 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and day 2 of the Uprise tryouts will soon begin. The campers are raring to go with high hopes for their future and gratitude for the experience.
For me to be here, I feel like God provided this opportunity for me to take my athleticism to the next level and to probably be in the NFL by God's grace and my hard work.
I expect to be at the top level. I expect to be in the NFL or in college because I'm 18 years old. I've enjoyed the process. I've enjoyed the whole process, the whole work I've enjoyed.
Osi says the vibe of the people he's met on the continent sets them apart and sets them up for success.
They are so hungry, right? And so their attitude is completely different than people who've been given everything. They're coming from a situation like it's do or die.
As training gets underway, even Osi gets in on a little activity.
Stretching, Abby. You know it's going down today.
But the former New York Giants player says there's no itch to get back on the field for real.
Everything that you can accomplish in the sport of football, I accomplished 12 years. I played professionally, won Super Bowls. There's literally nothing else that I could have done in the game.
Osi has big plans for NFL Africa and how it's going to operate on the continent.
I think in the future what we're going to have is we're going to have a structure or a facility where we bring in the highest level of coaches. And then when we find these athletes, we house them, we feed them, we give them schooling, but then we also teach them the fundamentals of American football. Go!
He's looking to shake things up on the continent in more ways than one.
I fully expect you to catch him, Ken. Good! Eventually, we're going to expand to other sports as well, getting people these opportunities and then getting Africans in these markets the recognition that they deserve.
As the Uprise camp closes out, Osi has some tough decisions to make. But before leaving the field to do that, he has some final words.
We're going to call some of you guys over. I'm not sure who yet, but quite a few of you are going to go to Ghana. So get you some rest right now. This is the end of another incredible, outstanding camp. I'm so proud of you guys, man. They showed me most of the things that I needed to see, which is important. They're going to be good. A lot of these players are going to be very successful. So I'm very happy for them. I'm happy for everything that we're able to do out here.
At the end of the day, for OC, it's not accolades or money that moves him.
It's one thing to achieve things for yourself, but we all die and everybody's gonna forget about you after that happens. But how many people have you helped? How many opportunities have you given to as many people as you can? And that's basically what I'm trying to do, and they're really, really happy about that.
Next, we'll revisit an animator who's using his skills to train the next generation of Ugandan creatives.
20,000 naira for free. 20,000 naira bonus.
Is your line blocked? Then move to Glow.
I'm reconnected.
Because we've all reconnected. And it's simple, simple.
Dial *109# and link your NIN to your new or existing Glow number.
Get up to 20,000 naira for free with Glow.
20,000 naira bonus free.
Yes, sir, free.
Niger, what are you waiting for?
These troops, they are Russian. I've spoken to the commander. He said they are now in control. It's a secret location. They're going to fire on Russian forces.
You downplayed the US intelligence assessments. Do you now regret that?
It is at least a chance to save their own lives. Matthew Chance, CNN.
David Masanso brings sketches to life through animation.
Welcome to Crossroad Digital Multimedia, a local animation studio here in Uganda.
His animation hub creates everything from commercials to short films and TV series.
We are working on Mukago, which is a children animation TV series based on local African games interwoven with STEM. Animation is going to be a drive for the education in Africa. As internet is getting cheaper, smartphones are getting cheaper, there are so many TVs. So I think now it's bridging between the content and the education system.
With every click of a button, David is fulfilling his childhood dream.
When I was young, I was introduced to cartoons. So that's where I picked my interest.
Impressive wingspan. Very good.
When I watched the first 3D computer animation film, Toy Story, and watched these cartoons moving around, I thought that we Africans, we can be able also to animate our own content. So it inspired me a lot. How can we make our own content, tell African stories with characters which relate to us? I had an opportunity to go to study animation in the UK, and my dream was how to come back to Africa and set up a studio. The day I got an opportunity to study animation, I thought I was crossing roads. That's why we are called Crossroads.
While David's company has won awards, he says it wasn't easy being a pioneer in Uganda's animation industry.
Coming back to Africa, animation was totally new industry. When we started Crossroads in 2011, one of the problems we faced was lack of skills. So in 2012, we created a program for training young animators to join our pipeline. So that was the honor, because in Uganda at that time, there was no school or university empowering youth with skills in animation. Our training has been growing year after year. We have trained over 200 animators. This is another space at Crossroads where we do our training from. Some of them are interns from one of the universities, a local university in Uganda, so they are training in character animation. From here, some of them join our projects.
As his team continues to grow, David is determined to make the industry more inclusive.
Women animation was founded because we didn't have female or ladies on our pipeline. So the objective was to inspire more girls, and we partner with universities. We do practical workshops and share skills with the universities interns, totally women. Then at the end of the day, we get them on animation projects.
He says women now make up about half of the company's workforce.
The success of Crossroads is not only about David. There are so many people we have worked with, whether I've trained them or have contributed